Hello and welcome to our presentation of Lensfolio. We are Bolt Development. The Bolt Development team is made up of 5 software engineers and 2 computer scientists. Our team grew over the year as we developed our technical skills by learning new software and encouraging each other to take on difficult tasks. Our soft skills developed as we faced challenges with conflict resolution and task estimation over the year. We end this project having developed crucial software engineering skills, making us better prepared for industry. Organising student software projects and tracking the progress of teams and students throughout the year is difficult. Lensfolio is designed to streamline administrating multiple software engineering student projects at the same time. Teachers and administrators can create projects for students. Each project contains sprints, events, deadlines, and milestones. Lensfolio allowed users to document their learning of skills throughout the year with a personal evidence page for each user. This can then be viewed by students and other teachers. Users can also be put into groups, with each group having a link to their Git repo with the recent actions displayed on their group page. We have a focus on user experience and have implemented features in line with this, such as a responsive mobile view and live updating.
Throughout our presentation, we will be referring to an imaginary user, Elaine. Elaine is a persona that we created to provide the perspective of a typical user that would use our application. Elaine is a 23-year-old university student currently studying computer science with a minor in philosophy. Like many students, she spends most of her day on her phone and gets an average of 4 hours sleep. Despite this, she is very organised and likes to be able to see what is coming up in a course at any time. Elena also doesn't have a laptop that she can bring to university, instead relying on the computer labs and her phone. One of the courses that Elaine has opted for is Ceng 303. For this course, she will need to be able to record all the activities that she performs so she is able to reflect on her progress at the end of the course. Another important member of the team that we had to create a persona for was Matt, aka Matty Bacon, a 30-year-old tutor for Elaine's 303 course. Matt is a 400 level student taking Ceng 403. For this course, he is acting as a quality assurance officer for a team working in Ceng 303. No prize for guessing which team he got.
Now let's consider the case where Matt's already logged in. He's been directed to the dashboard page where he can see all the projects, as you can see on the screen. He decides to create a new project and he clicks on the Create Project option. He immediately creates the project with the filled in data and gets a proper feedback. Then he decides to change the name of the project and then enter the description into the project field. He creates the project and gets a valid feedback. Now Matt has, after creating the project, Matt decides to add 2 new sprints. As you can see on the left hand side of the screen, there are 2 events that he's already created, Sprint 1 Planning and Sprint 2 Planning. He then clicks on the plus button to create a new sprint. He deletes the sprint name, and as you can notice that he got a proper feedback, and then he adds a new name. He starts entering the description for the sprint, and as you can see, there is a proper character count he gets as he enters new characters. Then he decides to click on Create and gets a proper feedback saying the sprint was created. He also notices that the colour of the first event matches the sprint 1. Then he creates a second sprint with valid name and a valid description. And once he's satisfied, he clicks Create. He notices that the colour of the second event matches the second sprint. He also, then he decides to edit the second sprint and change the start date to the next day, and then saves the actual sprint. He notices that he gets a proper feedback for updating the sprint, and the event to color has changed. Then he notices, he clicks on the expanded view to notice that the events were reflected under the sprint. Now Matt decides to create new groups so that he can assign people to the groups. He also wanted to understand the process, so he also decides to delete the group as he's learning that process. He navigates to the groups page, as you can see from the navigation panel on the left. He then clicks on the create group, enters in the valid group name and the long name for the group, and then once he's satisfied, he clicks on create. He gets proper feedback, then drags 2 new users to the group, and then selects the group and decides to delete the group itself. He gets a proper notification and moves on. Merging, learning outcomes from merging. Merging branches with new features is one of the most crucial part of software development. While it may seem simple, things can easily be missed. We found that using a checklist can come in handy while we came up with an extensive list to make sure that nothing was missed. There were 3 main areas that we focused on: making sure that the pipelines pass, making sure that the quality of code is up to the standard by checking that they're free of code smells, vulnerabilities, bugs, and duplication. And then finally, making sure that valid tests have been created and they pass. We also learned that choosing the right branching strategy is vital when working in a team. We initially chose a more conservative option of merging features into stories, which then were merged into the test server and finally into the production server. We found that it created a lot of bottlenecks affecting our ability to deliver feature on time. Choosing a minimalistic option where features could be directly merged into the test server combined with standardized reviews using a checklist helped us overcome these bottlenecks. We also learnt that modals are very useful as they offer simplicity to a user, as they don't have to go to a new page, visibility of data, or as all the crucial data is visible when filling in a form, as you can see on the screen snapshot on the right hand side, and flexibility of view as it works for all screen sizes.
For our learning outcomes regarding the user interface and user experience of our application, we found it extremely helpful to have frequent communications with the product owner and quality assurance officer. By talking directly with the quality assurance officer, we could get feedback early on in our designs, as well as get suggestions for improvements on how to make our app more user-friendly. We also learned that frequent communication with the product owner was also extremely important to make sure the user requirements were met and to clarify any details we had about the product backlog. This is one of our wireframes that we created for our application alongside the final design. We found that starting with wireframes was extremely useful, as having a sketch of the layout allowed us to check if all the necessary features were included, and it also made us think about how the user will interact with the application. It also allowed us to get feedback early on in the design process, and made design changes more efficient, as any changes could be reworked in a short amount of time. Another learning outcome was, from our experience with implementing mobile design, we learned that mobile design should always come first. We learned this the hard way, as we were starting from the desktop layout first to mobile layout. This caused us a lot of difficulties, as we realized due to the limited screen space, some of the content could not be displayed, or either had to be repositioned or made smaller to fit the screen. Leaving mobile design as an afterthought also made us realize not all of the functionalities were accessible on mobile. From this experience, we learned that starting from mobile design would be a better option for future projects.
During the year, Elaine wants to make sure that their project is up to the required standard by demonstrating their application to Matt. Elaine decides to organise this by contacting them at the end of one of their sprint plannings. During this encounter, Matt would like to add an event for this meeting into the team's project. As they are not currently in their office, they would like to create this event on their phone. Elaine would also like to confirm that this event has been created before leaving. Our application allows both parties' desires to be met. This quick demo shows Matt creating the new event in 3 days from now on the left, with Elaine's view of the page on the right. Both demos are using our mobile interface, which we ensured worked just as well as our desktop counterparts to allow students and teachers to view and modify their projects while moving between labs and lectures. Keeping information updated was another important design consideration that we focused on. Once Matt has created the event, you will be able to see that the event is automatically added to Elaine's view without needing to reload the page.
Elaine wants to see what her team has been up to recently. To help with this, she can connect a Git repository to her team's group. This is done by first selecting the Groups tab, finding her group, and then navigating to its individual page. There she can navigate to the Repo Settings tab and fill out her repository details, which will then display the recent actions for the repository on the side panel of the page. She also has the option to filter by user or by the type of action itself. Elaine can also find out about work unrelated to GitLab that her team members have completed by first navigating to the users page, finding one of her team members, and selecting the evidence button. This then takes her to that individual's page where she can view evidence of work which they have previously uploaded to their profile. Throughout building LensFolio, our team has gained important experience in utilizing third-party APIs, which was just shown in our use of the GitLab API in order to connect a GitLab repository to Elaine and her group. The use of third-party APIs in our application is not limited to the use of the GitLab API, however, and various others were used throughout our application after evaluating the risk of including them. The most noticeable ones being Stomp.js to assist in the live updating of our application, Croppy in order to crop and compress user profile photos, and the use of Full Calendar to visually display sprints within a project. The ability to use third-party APIs is a valuable skill to acquire. As an industry, no one wants to put time and money towards reinventing the wheel, especially so when the result might not be as good as the original. This is a lesson we learned early on when first struggling to crop user profile photos, before allowing Croppy to do it for us.
One of the biggest challenges we initially faced as a team was testing our product. At the beginning, we struggled with testing as we found writing good tests hard and had poorly documented manual tests. As we progressed throughout our sprints, with little testing done, we started to discover more and more bugs, which caused us to fail a lot of our committed stories. The turning point for us was discovering that our code coverage was amongst the lowest of all teams, and realizing that the teams that were ahead of us in progress or had better quality code and a large amount of testing was done in their code. By the end of the project, our testing had greatly evolved to one of the highest test coverages amongst all other teams. One of the most beneficial changes we made was switching from manual UI testing to automated Cypress UI testing. Cypress testing allowed our team to create tests from a user's perspective and have them run automatically. This benefited us greatly to test individual feature criteria and allowed us to test on multiple different browsers. We also did not need to manually run these tests each time and made sure new additions to our product did not break any existing features within our code. A tool that equally assisted in creating a high-quality product was SonarQube. SonarQube is a code analysis tool which gave us various analytics and information all in one place. The most important analytics to us were new and total code coverage on merge requests and branches, security vulnerabilities, code smells, and estimated technical debt. It encapsulates the saying that an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure, where we were able to prevent many different maintainability and security vulnerabilities early on, so we did not have to spend much greater time and resources to find and resolve these issues if the faulty code, was deployed for real users to use.
This year, we also learned a lot about the agile development process. Sprint planning was a stage where we faced a lot of difficulties. Many of our tasks exceeded the time we had estimated, which was often linked to our task breakdown. We found a lot of our tasks were too large and would often take much longer than estimated to complete, which would cause a lot of blockages. Through these failures, we learned that we should be breaking down the tasks so that they are small enough to be completed before each stand-up, and most importantly, that having a good task breakdown is essential to keep the project in progress. As a team, we also found the retrospectives really helpful in increasing quality and effectiveness. By reflecting on the past sprint, we learned what methods really worked for us as a team, what aspects did not go so well, and what we can do to improve in the future. Our first few retrospectives did not have clear action items set, therefore it was often difficult to follow through and would not be accomplished. We learned making our action items smart made a huge difference in achieving these goals and an increasing efficiency in our sprints.
At the start of the year, we came into Singe 302 having never worked together, had minimal experience with some of the technologies, and had only touched on Scrum frameworks in previous courses. It was inevitable that we would face challenges, but throughout the year we have worked together and persevered through setbacks to create Lensfolio. Initially, our stand-ups were inefficient, futile, and in short, a chore, something we had to do. After making a few action items and redesigning how we did our stand-ups, we were able to communicate our task impediments, progress, and future work more effectively, enabling us to use our stand-ups to push our progress forward. We also made use of the burn-down chart and flow diagram, which helped us to reflect on our progress and plan for the rest of the sprint. Running efficient stand-ups has been a key learning for our team and something we will certainly use in industry, especially as a way to communicate our impediments and requirements for help. We learned very quickly that there is no one-size-fits-all when it comes to conflict resolution. After attempting to resolve issues through group meetings, we made no improvement to our teamwork. However, through more frequent co-location sessions, conversations in Slack channels as opposed to group chats, and communicating how we prefer to resolve conflicts, we became more understanding and accepting of each other, resulting in better team cohesiveness. Throughout the project, we struggled a lot with task breakdowns. We tried vertical slicing of user stories only to find that our tasks were too large and sometimes were 22 hours long. Then we tried horizontal slicing because, despite Fabian's warnings in Singe 301, we apparently thought we knew better. We encountered a lot of merging and crossover issues with this approach, leading to our implementation errors and bugs in our application. As most of us have experienced, Singe 302 is a very stressful course. When you've got to hit your 15 hours a week, accept the fact that you keep failing the same story for a different reason each time, and juggle 3 other courses, it is no wonder we struggled to sustain our motivation throughout. We found that it was important to communicate when we were burnt out and needing help, so that we could be supported by the rest of the team. Being honest about the work we could do and working in smaller increments helped with our motivation and ability to complete tasks efficiently. A key takeaway from managing high workload and dwindling motivation is to always ask for help and try not to figure things out alone. This is important as we move forward from Singe 302 and start working in industry with people who have more experience than us.
Right, unfortunately I'm going to have to cut this conclusion a bit short due to the lack of time we have left, but Singe 302 has been an incredibly valuable learning experience for all of us. Never before have any of us had experience like this in terms of working on a group project that lasts such a long time, where you can't just put up with your team members waiting for it to end. You actually have to work together and learn to function as a team. Most of us at the start of the year had very little idea what had to go into a web application or any of the technology surrounding it. However, at the end of the year, I'm comfortable to say most of us will be happy to do it, not alone, but do it again. Lastly, I'd like to extend thanks to Moffat and the teaching team for the support our team has received without the year. We really couldn't have done it without it. We look forward to seeing you all at the interactive session afterwards. Thank you very much.